Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome back to the halfway point of the inaugural virtual Road to Formula Karting Trophy being broadcasted both on YouTube and also on Twitch. It's Alex Goldschmidt back once again, and we are at the place where legends are born, the home of the places such as the IAMI International Finals and also the Rotax Max Challenge International Trophy. The Le Mans International Circuit, based just 2 hours outside of Paris. This circuit variation was built in 2013, totaling a whopping length of 1,384 metres, so just over 0.84 miles. Every single race this evening will be 10 laps in duration. But coming into this round, Raphael Renhofer leads the standings on 85 points, just 2 ahead of Kai Gielets in the from Belgium. Then we've got the Netherlands' very own Jaden Thien in third place with 57 points. Ed Boutron rounds out the top 4 on 35 points. Unfortunately, Christian de Klein are unable to make it this evening, but we do have Frederik van Overloop returning this evening, and he is level on points with Decline at the moment, so it is a lead of 2 points that Raphael Renhofer has this very evening. So with regards to the calendar, we still have 3 more circuits after this one over the next 3 weeks. So the 3rd of December, we head to Adria Karting Raceway, which just so happened in the latter part of October, hosted the 3rd and final race weekend of what will be a slightly truncated Rotax Max Euro Trophy season. That's our 4th round. The penultimate round of the season will head to Sweden, so it will be Heja Sverige, Kristianstad at the Asmering on the 10th of December, and then the home of champions, Karting Genk in Belgium on the 17th of December. So before we get things truly underway, let's give you an indication of just how hard you have to push here at Le Mans. So we are now back, and qualifying is underway here at Le Mans for the 3rd out of 6 rounds here on the virtual Road to Formula Karting Trophy. And just a quick little bit of a reminder about the prizes that are on offer here at the Road to Formula Karting Trophy. The top 3 will receive the following prizes. 1 month of free guidance worth €650, courtesy of Road to Formula, will be provided to our champion. Our runner-up will have some custom-made karting or sim racing gloves by IMB Raceway. We're really glad to have them on board, as well as the GPVWC Sim Racing League. And then 3rd place in the standings will get a 1 data acquisition session at a track of their choice, also courtesy of Road to Formula. And it's going to be an interesting one. We have 5 competitors. So we have Raphael Renhofer, Kai Gielets, Jaden Thien, Ed Boutron, and Frederik van Overloop. So qualifying is very shortly going to be getting underway. Every single race this evening will be 10 laps in duration. So that will give us a total of 13.84 kilometers of racing action, as we await for the drivers to now see that the timer starts counting down. It looks to be the case now, as Van Overloop is the first driver out of the pits to go and set an initial benchmark, and now the rest of the field start making their way out too. Very, very big circuit here. It's named after four-time Formula One world champion Alain Prost, who secured his last title with Williams Renault in 1993 before retiring from competitive racing in Formula One, that is. And then would end up having his own racing team in Formula One. But I know that Alain and his son Nico, who's with Renault Edams in its first few seasons of Formula E, still enjoys getting behind the wheel. I think it was normally with Dacia in the Trophée Andros, which is the ice racing that happens every winter. So the drivers starting to really get a measure of the track here at Le Mans. Very, very tight corners, very, very difficult and rapid changes of momentum, especially when you're having to go through sweeping right-hand turns, like Frederik van Overloop has just negotiated 3 on the bounce, then has had to go into a 90 left. And he's gone purple in sector 1. Well, no, he hasn't. Kai Rielitz has on a 15.956. Ben Hoffer currently on a 16.233 on sector 1. The slowest out of all 5 is Ed Boutron in 4th place at the moment. Jaden Thien not too far behind both Overloop and Rielitz, as Renhofer sets the fastest sector in number 2. Van Overloop will be the first one to really give us a benchmark with around 3 minutes on the clock remaining. Boutron crosses the line, 54.244. So nicely done by the number 5 there. He's currently sitting in 6th in the standings, as Boutron now will come across the start-finish line. And he will go, and that is a 57.726. But in the meantime, Rafael Renhofer has set the fastest lap, but has already got himself up into, he's gone just under 15.9 seconds in sector number 1. Kai Rielitz has just done a personal best for himself, but not just him, the rest of the field in sector number 3. And not an improvement in sector 2 for Renhofer. So we are just awaiting for what Jaden Thien and Ed Boutron will be able to do, as it looks like Renhofer is on another hot lap here. And he comes across the line, 53.872 from the young Austrian. Kai Rielitz currently rounding out the top 3. Let's see if he does improve as Jaden Thien goes up into 2nd place. Rielitz has a target time of 57.873 to beat, and Jaden Thien has also gone sub 54 seconds on that particular lap. So Rielitz has a lot of work to do. And for those wondering about the formats, it is 3 qualifying heats, all 10 laps in duration. It's 0 points for a win, 2 for 2nd, 3 for 3rd, 4 for 4th, and so on and so forth. And the person with the lowest point score after the intermediate classification will be on pole position for the first of 2 finals. Renhofer will come across the line with around a minute and a quarter to go, and he goes even now. He just went in, and that was a 56. Well, that was a 53.613. Jaden Thien lost a bit of time in sector number 2. Rielitz has got an absolutely big mountain to climb. Make that over 6.5 tenths of a second. He's got to find in probably this and his last qualifying lap. As no, Rielitz shortcuts the track. That has really caused problems for him, and I don't think he's going to get another lap in at that particular occasion. With the top 4 covered by just 0.662 seconds. 30 on the clock remaining. And no one has really got an answer for Rafael Renhofer, who has put it on pole position for this session. As Kai Rielitz, I've just had a massive, massive moment. And he's now parked it in the garage. So I think that really has brought the session to an abrupt end. But one of the biggest things here is that Renhofer is on pole position for the very first of 3 qualifying heats, and the running order will be exactly the same. So it will be Renhofer, Thien, Van Overloop, Rielitz, and Boutron. That will be the running order for all 3 qualifying heats this evening. So we'll be back in just a couple of moments' time when we get things underway with the first race here on the virtual Road to Formula Karting Trophy, brought to you in association with KartSim Limited, IMB Racewear, and the GP VWC. Back in a moment. Right then, it is about time to get the racing underway here at the place where legends are born, Le Mans International Circuit, for the first of three qualifying heats. And Rafael Renhofer from Austria will start on pole position, ahead of Jaden Thien from the Netherlands. Then it's Friedrich van Overloop, Kai Rielerts, and then Ed Boudron rounding out the five-strong grid. 1,384 metres, and we will have standing starts for every single race throughout the remainder of the inaugural virtual Road to Formula Karting Trophy, here broadcasting live on both YouTube and Twitch. So it's going to be an interesting one. Got some inside information from my good friends Matteo and Vincent telling me that Rielerts has only been practicing today, whereas the other drivers seem to have done so as well. However, all five drivers lined up on the grid. 10 laps of racing action, 13.84 kilometers around here at Le Mans, located in Pays de la Loire in France. And we are waiting with bated breath, and they get away from the starting grid, and it's the run down to the left-hander at turn number one. There's a bit of a kink, and then it tightens in on itself, becoming a hairpin. There's a bit of side pod banging, and that was Rielerts on Van Overloop going into turn one, as Renhofer leads the field going through into the infield of the circuit here, and Renhofer setting the timesheets alight, but Rielerts now starting to close, as is Van Overloop in third and fourth respectively. Boudron is keeping pace with Van Overloop as now the top three. We saw them battling away last time out. I'm trying to remember the name of the circuit now. Oh, crikey. You can see how much work I'm doing at the moment on this sim racing commentary business. But it was Zuera with South Garda being the opening round. And this is where it's going to really, really pay dividends. It's about being consistent, and Raphael Renhofer has been consistent so far. As up the inside of Jaden Thien goes Kai Rielertz. He banzais up the inside. Thien now starts to respond, looking towards the outside of Rielertz, who gets back up the inside. But that time, Thien went wide, and he's definitely done... Now, Jaden Thien has actually been handed a penalty. I would imagine that is for track limits as a result of that off-track excursion. So Jaden Thien already under pressure, so to speak, as now Rielertz will start trying to close on Renhofer, who is leading on the second lap out of 10. Van Overloop gets a little bit of a moment there and locks up the brakes quite substantially on the back end as they now make their way onto the start-finish straight to complete lap 2, onto lap number 3. Best lap time now of the entire field, a 54.037 of Renhofer. I'm just going to keep my eyes on Kai Rielertz because at the minute he's running at the 55.1s. But one of the biggest things here is that Rielertz really needs to get up to speed and just keep it consistent, keep it neat and tidy. Don't banzai up the inside unless you know that that gap is going to stay there, because any racing driver holding their line will look and try and find that opportunity to shut the door quite firmly. And that can happen a lot more than is normally stated in karting. And here at the Virtual Road to Formula Karting Trophy, it is no exception. We've seen some great clean moves. We've seen some people have some absolute banzai overtaking. And here at Le Mans, it will be no different. Renhofer now goes on to lap number 4 and starts pushing the envelope. He's put in a 53.828. Kai Rielertz exactly 1.101 of a second adrift, and was fastest out of everybody in sectors 1 and 3, with Renhofer quickest in sector 2. Gap now between Renhofer and Rielertz closing to around about 2 seconds. It's now Jaden Thien running the very, very light blue colours there in the number 8. And he's got Van Overloop just ahead. And I've really been impressed with Van Overloop as Thien sets the fastest first sector of anybody. Overloop makes a little bit of a mistake going to the final complex before they head into the sweeping left that brings them onto the start-finish straight. And Renhofer again sets the fastest lap of the race. He extends the gap between himself and Kai Rielertz to 2.5 seconds, and in the process puts in a 53.796, fastest lap out of anybody this race so far, as we are fast approaching half time, as Thien trying to close on Van Overloop as they go into the 90 left. So Thien looking to put the hammer down and try and close down on Van Overloop, and he looks to be doing so as we go on board with the number 8 hailing from Soestenen in the Netherlands, as Renhofer has gone. He's absolutely flying. That gap between him and Rielertz is nearly 3 seconds at the moment, as there was a bit of a mistake there from Overloop going into the left-hand part of the chicane, and Jaden Thien managed to capitalise on it very, very quickly indeed. And where is Renhofer finding this pace from? He's just on a 53.4. That is ridiculous. That is absolutely obscene. Huge pace for Raphael Renhofer, and he now extends the gap to Kai Rielertz to over 3 seconds, and at one point at its highest it was 3.2. Rielertz sets the personal best in sector 1 himself, but still has a lot of ground to find on Renhofer. So we're on lap number 6 out of 10. Jaden Thien has now ended up back behind Frederik van Overloop. So those two Yeah, so it looks like Jaden Thien made a bit of a mistake, but the way that he's actually closing on Van Overloop, and again, through that chicane, they bang side pods, but Jaden Thien, my goodness, that was one hell of a lap. He absolutely clawed into that gap that was between him and Van Overloop. And Van Overloop now finds himself back in fourth place. Boudron still running. He's been, as I keep on saying, whenever he's racing, he's always enjoying himself. He's got a big smile on his face and enjoying the atmosphere and enjoying the competition. Lap 7 out of 10. Bernhofer's lead over Hilets is now 4.5 seconds, and no one can deny who is now starting to showcase that he is the leader of the Wolfpack. That is Raphael Renhofer. And he is currently 4.3 seconds, make that 4.5 seconds ahead of Kai Helitz. And it's Jaden Thien for the 2.2 seconds adrift. He's got Van Overloop about half a second adrift from him. Oh, Van Overloop goes off at the final corner. Oh, and I think tagged the barrier too, but he manages to rejoin and loses an absolutely gargantuan amount of distance between himself. Well, the gap just like literally went so wide and so big. I think you'd run out of tape measure to measure it. So that really has caused a problem from Van Overloop not securing a top 3 finish. As Ed Boudron, goes sideways. He does a bit of a Johan Christoffersen in sort of like rallycross terms. And congratulations to Johan Christoffersen for securing his 3rd World Rallycross Championship, despite the finale at the Nürburgring being cancelled by promoters and organisers IMG. Kai Helitz trying to do his best as Renhofer is now on the penultimate lap of the 10-lap race here at Le Mans, the first of 3 qualification heats. So Helitz keeping himself in contention, as he has done for the past 2 rounds. The first one at South Garda, the second one at Zuera, and now we are in our 3rd different country in as many weeks here at Le Mans. So it's not an easy chance to try and close that kind of gap on Renhofer. Nevertheless, Renhofer doing an absolutely sterling job at the front of the field. And he's now going to go into the right-hander into the double left that then brings them onto the start-finish straight. One more lap in qualifying heat number 1 for Austria's Raphael Renhofer. Into the left kink, then into the left-hander at turn 2. Let's keep with Raphael for the moment. Slight kink there into 3. Bit of run down into the right-hander at 4. Then another one at 5. So you can just see how hard he is pushing. And no one is going to tell Raphael Renhofer that he's not going to be the one winning this race. Well, he's done a fantastic job so far. Currently races with FM Racing. Seen him at the Euro Trophy and also the B&L Karting Series. But just a couple of corners remain. And starting off the evening in style, Raphael Renhofer comes out of the final corner, starts weaving from side to side and takes the checkered flag. As here comes Kai Helitz. He'll hold on to second. Thien was closing and the gap was just under. And Helitz does a 360 after coming across the line. That's one way to celebrate a good recovery there, Kai. Jaden Thien obviously was given a penalty, I think, and has been demoted to 4th. As we're just waiting for Ed Boudron to cross the line. And then we will have our first race completed. So with 1 heat down, 2 more to go. Renhofer leads the intermediate classification ahead of Helitz, Van Overloop, and then Jaden Thien, and then Ed Boudron. So 2 more races before we decide who will be on which grid, which position in the grid here on the virtual Road to Formula Karting Trophy, brought to you in association with Kart Sim Limited, IMB Raceware and the GPVWC. I'll be back in just a moment's time. Well, just been given some information reference Heat 1. We have found that Kai Helitz has had a warning from race control, and Jaden Thien has been put back to third position at the end of it. So it's going to be an interesting one. So it will be Renhofer starting from pole position, Jaden Thien on alongside on row one with Van Overloop and Gilets running at the top four, and then we'll have Ed Boutron running at the top five. So at the moment, Renhofer leads the intermediate classification. Will that all change in heat number two? Well, we are about to find out very, very shortly. A big thank you to you all for tuning in wherever you are and wherever you're watching, if it's YouTube or Twitch. Thank you for joining us here as the drivers now are on the grid, ready to go racing. As we've in the rear-facing cam, or the chase cam for Ed Boutron. So 10 more laps around the 1,384-meter circuit here at Le Mans. The 5 lights now are on the well, the gantry definitely does get going as Boutron, I think, had a bit of a moment, but look at that. He's just decided to banzai up the inside of Van Overloop, and Gilles has it looks like there's a connection issue. Oh, there's major dramas for Raphael Renhofer. Jaden Thien went up the inside of the Austrian, and all of a sudden, my goodness me, that was drama personified. So I did. That's the commentator's curse coming right there and then. So it looks like there's been some lag issues as well amongst all of this. So it looks like I think that is Boutron, I believe, that has got. So we are actually going to do a full restart of this race. So I think Raphael Renhofer has definitely had one of his 9 lives taken away after that one. So yeah, it's all good. It's all good. So Renhofer has another opportunity to get things going. So please bear with us. With sim racing these days, these things can sometimes happen. Server issues, disconnect issues. But for those wondering about the track and air temperature at Le Mans, the virtual recreation thereof, 25 degrees air temperature, 25 degrees track temperature. So we should be in for another great race. Obviously, Renhofer winning by a clear country mile last time ahead of Gilles, with Thien, Van Overloop, and Boutron rounding out the 5-strong grid. Hopefully, we'll have Christian Decline back with us for round 4 at Adria next week. So who knows? We could have a very, very interesting 2 more qualifying heats to find out who's going to take pole position for the first of 2 finals. And for those wondering about the point scoring, well, you can head to the official Road to Formula website itself. You can also, the actual points are what we use in both the BNL Karting Series and the Rotax Max Euro Trophy. So effectively, it's 25 for a victory, 20 for second, 16 for third, 13 for fourth, 11 points for fifth, and 10 for sixth if we had 6 drivers on the grid this evening. But the best 4 results will count towards each of the drivers' championship campaigns. So we'll be back in just a couple of moments once the server issue is all rectified. We'll be right back. Okay, we were just waiting for a couple of issues to be resolved, which they look to have been now. So the grid for qualifying heat number 2 will be Rafael Renhofer ahead of Jaden Thien, Frederik van Overloop, and then Kai Gielats, followed by Ed Boutron. So that is your starting order for this heat and also heat number 3. And we'll be getting underway with, once again, another 10 laps of racing action here at the place where legends are born. And there is our grid starting to emerge onto the grid itself. So we are just waiting for the drivers to make their way out onto the circuit. And so at least we will have a standing start as opposed to rolling start. We found that at South Garda, it didn't really help what was happening. But the main thing is that we found a solution as we go into the chase cam behind Ed Boutron once again. Looks like Van Overloop yet to join the grid at the moment. So we will just keep an eye on that as we can. So all 5 drivers set in positions, and as soon as the green light shows on the gantry, they will be off and away and racing. And then it's down to reaction times. 3 lights, 4 lights, and we go green. Lights are now onto green and we go racing. They push the accelerators hard to the floor as it's the run down to turn 1. Thien looking towards the outside of Renhofer and gets the switch back in as Gielats closing on Van Overloop with Boutron not too far behind. So initial first couple of skirmishes as Gielats really gets a run on Van Overloop. Oh, tags with the side of him and nearly loses the back end. But he catches that one. That was one hell of a save from Kai Gielats. So Renhofer starting to lead the field away. And the gap is now about 4 tenths between him and Jaden Thien, but Thien is closing. Renhofer was fastest in sector number 1 and also now sector number 2. Jaden Thien about 3 tenths down over both sectors combined as Van Overloop goes a bit wide going to the chicane on the final part of sector 3. And then that slightly compromises Kai Gielats. But Gielats not giving up quite yet as they now head into the right-hand kink and then into the left-hand kink at turn 1. And then the first left-hand hairpin. And Gielats really needs to get a motor on in this early phase, because if he doesn't, he's going to have an absolutely humongous mountain to climb as he banzais up the inside of Van Overloop, who doesn't give him any room whatsoever. There was enough room for Gielats to make the gap, to shoot through the gap, but this time, as the switch, that was a bit of a switchback masterclass there from Frederik van Overloop on Kai Gielats, because Gielats went banzaiing up the inside, and Van Overloop went, no, you don't, sunshine, you're not getting through on that particular occasion. So Van Overloop keeps 3rd for the minute, but Jaden Thien has been closer to Rafael Renhofer than anyone else has been this evening in the first and also the second race. We've now completed lap 2. On to lap 3 is a bit of a sideways moment there. A lock up of the brakes for Frederik van Overloop as Renhofer sets the fastest time of anybody at 54.066. Gielats is the fastest in sector number 1. And he's only half a second adrift of Van Overloop, which is not even looking like that. So now Gielats is losing time to Renhofer and Thien as we fast approach the conclusion of lap number 3 out of 10. It's not been easy for Kai Gielats this evening, but he has already had a second place. So he's currently second at the moment in the intermediate classification, but if Jaden Thien takes second, he will then have second position in the intermediate classification after this race as Renhofer goes quickest again at 53.816. So he's been doing a fantastic job, Renhofer, and he's got a 2-point advantage over Gielats at the moment. However, this round could be very decisive in who are really the championship protagonists moving forward. And Gielats, after the first 2 rounds, very, very much in the firing line. Along with Renhofer, as Gielats again closes up on Van Overloop for 3rd position, going through the left-hand hairpin. in this respect, Renhofer, I mean, if Thien, you look at it from this way, oh, well, Ed Bouton is a DNF on that particular occasion, so probably he's had another connection issue over in Mexico. As Renhofer goes fastest again, 53.7 flat from the Austrian. Thien quickest in sector 1. Rielert's trying to do everything within his power to get past Frederick van Overloop. And can't get past at the minute, but now he's going to try and go up the inside. Oh, the pair clash, and they're off the circuit. Oh, I think that was a move from Kai Rielert's. I think that was a bit too brazen. He's going to have to let Van Overloop past. Yeah, and he does so, but even so, that's very, very decisive indeed. However, whatever penalty that Rielert's gets, that will still keep him in 4th position. So he's definitely struggling here at Le Mans. So hopefully Adria and Genk will probably be 2 tracks that will suit him very, very well indeed. But meanwhile, whilst that's all happened, Renhofer is just calmly cruising off into the distance, not by the country mile that he had in the first qualifying heat. It's 1.4 seconds up on Jaden Thien, and has just put in a 53.588. So this is where it all changes at the minute. So Renhofer will be leading the intermediate classification if it stays as it is right now, and that depends on whether Jaden Thien can close on him, and whether Kai Rielert's can close on Van Overloop for 3rd place. Jaden Thien's best lap so far is a 53.7. Kai Rielert's is about 4/10 off of Jaden Thien in terms of pure pace, and he's over 6/10 off of Rafael Renhofer. So a lot can be said with it. There will always be a track that will be that sort of like bogey track for a driver. And in this particular instance, it seems like Le Mans isn't favouring Kai Rielert's at this particular moment. So on to lap 7 out of 10 for qualifying heat number 2. Renhofer leads by 1.7 seconds. Van Overloop, who we're on board with at the minute, currently still in 3rd, but has Rielert's about a second adrift. And Ed Bouton not having a good run in the second qualifying heat. Still finished 5th in the first race, but obviously even with a DNF, it still puts him in 5th. So effectively, the benefit of that, he gets 5 points, which puts him on 10. So Van Overloop, 4 for him, so that will put him on 7. So yeah, Jaden Thien would have 5 points, Kai Rielert's would have 6, and then Van Overloop would have 7 after this particular heat. So Renhofer again goes faster than anybody, setting the sectors purple in 2 and 3 as they go on to lap 8 out of 10. And Rielert's now is about half a second. He's closing on Van Overloop. He was actually just 0.138 seconds quicker than Van Overloop. And they are still battling. That's going to be the main battle that we've got here at the moment. We've seen now 3.7 seconds behind Renhofer. So Thien had a bit of a dismal lap last time around, which was a 54.985. So we're on the penultimate lap of the second qualifying heat, and it looks like the job is pretty much assured for Rafael Renhofer. He's just got a lap and a bit to go, but now the battle for 3rd and 4th really heating up. Rielert's going towards the inside of Van Overloop into the left-hand kink. He has to slot in behind going into the hairpin, but then this time makes a bit of a cleaner move there, and Rielert's up the inside of Van Overloop to now take 3rd position. And that will effectively put him level with Jaden Thien on points in terms of the intermediate classification so far. So a good job there from Kai Rielert's to get past Van Overloop to take 3rd place. And Renhofer still extending that gap, and that gap has gone up and up and up. And he's just put in a purple sector, sector 2, 20.8, as we now go on to the final lap of the second qualifying heat. And there is Rafael Renhofer in the blue liveried cart, the number 3. The gap between him and Jaden Thien is about 4.7 seconds. And Thien's just set a personal best in sector number 3. but no one has been able to challenge Rafael Renhofer all the way through this evening's proceedings so far. So pole position for time qualifying. A win in qualifying heat, number 1, as we now go on to the chase cam following Rafael Renhofer. Just got a handful of corners to go. Going down from around 105 to about 65 kph. Now through in towards the final corner. Once again, it is now 2 for 2 for Austria's Rafael Renhofer here at Le Mans. What a great job by the youngster. Jaden Thien will welcomely be happy with a 3rd place finish. And then we have our last 2 competitors that are still circumnavigating their way around the track. Around the final corner to take P3 comes Kai Rielets, followed by Frederik van Overloop, with Ed Boudron, unfortunately, a DNF in that particular race as the drivers decide to get in some welcome spinning off the circuit just to see if they can, probably a little bit of fun to blow off some steam. But that's it. But in just a moment's time, we're going to go back to the racetrack for our 3rd and final qualifying heat here at Le Mans for the virtual Road to Formula karting trophy, brought to you in association with KartSim Limited, IMB Racewear, and the GP VWC. Back in a moment, folks. Now it's time. Now it is time for the final qualifying heat here at Le Mans for the Virtual Roads to Formula Karting Trophy. The halfway point, very, very close in proximity. And here is your grid: Raphael Venhofer, Jaden Thien, Frederick Van Overloop, and Kai Gielers. It will be a 4-driver grid because no Ed Bouton is having connection issues at the moment. As we go onto the chase cam for Kai Gielers, and once the 4 red lights go out on the gantry and it goes green on the right-hand side of the lights, we will be off and racing. So it has been a clean sweep for Raphael Venhofer so far here at Le Mans, with Jaden Thien on countback taking second in the intermediate classification. Green lights mean that we can go racing, and they push the accelerators hard to the floor, and it is 2 by 2. Hurrah! Heading into the first couple of corners, Jaden Thien goes defensive on Van Overloop as Gielers goes up the inside, and a little bit of side pod and wheel clashing there between third and fourth, but Gielers made a very, very good move there to make it up the inside, and now he's closing on Jaden Thien. So Gielers now really wants to seize the moment, carpe diem, seize the day, if you will, and now he's getting really, really aggressive behind the wheel. He's only been practicing because he doesn't have a sim at home. He's actually at the Roads Formula location, and he has been only practicing on this track since 5 o'clock this afternoon European time. So now the 4 drivers covered by just around a second and a half as we come round to complete the very first lap out of 10. On to lap 2 we go. Venhofer leads ahead of Thien, Gielers and Van Overloop as they make their way through into turns 1 and then into the left at 2 as Jaden Thien takes a little bit of grass there and going through the hairpin, but Gielers having an absolute flyer. And Thien runs wide, Gielers up the inside. The pair have a little bit of a touch there. Thien, gets absolutely banzaied and nigh on T-boned by Van Overloop. There was a little bit of a touch there between Gielers and Thien, but I think that was possibly just a bit of rubbings racing. But that is not down to me to make that decision. That is down to race control. But Gielers now has got the fire well and truly stoked in the belly. As Venhofer has put in a 1 minute .354. Gielers is about a second adrift. As Venhofer now will come across the start-finish line to complete lap number 2. So, racing incident declared between Jaden Thien and Kai Gielers. It was all fair because they were alongside each other. So, which meant that Gielers had the opportunity to go for the move and was up far enough alongside Jaden Thien for that move to stick. But Thien, we know he is rather quick as Gielers has now gone purple in sector number 1 at 15.832, and that was 23 thousandths quicker than Kai Gielers, than Raphael Venhofer. So Gielers trying to close, but the gap is extending once again. It's 1.9 seconds. Venhofer goes purple again in sector 2 at 20.9. Gielers at 21.3. So I'm just trying to keep an eye on the sectors for Jaden Thien, but all I'm getting at the moment are respective lap times, no sector times from Jaden Thien, who looks to be closing once again, as now this time around a 53.715 from Venhofer, as Thien is now closing on Gielers, and that is for second position. This will decide the front row of the grid, and at the moment it currently has that Gielers is on 7 points. If things were to finish as they are now, Thien would be on 8 points. But Thien not holding back. And there's a little bit of a touch. That's a third touch on the back bumper of Kai Gielers from Jaden Thien, who absolutely went steamrolling in. I saw the lock of the brakes on the rear. And the tyres squealing in agony. But Gielers keeping ahead of Thien at the moment. So Venhofer will now take it onto the 5th lap out of 10. So we're close to the halfway point of this third and final qualification heat here at Le Mans. Gielers still keeping ahead of Jaden Thien. Van Overloop is actually closing as well and has set personal bests in all 3 sectors and also set a personal best of the race, 54.299. Jaden Thien, in the meantime, though, had an absolute shocker last time round. It was still nevertheless a personal best. It was a 54.717. Kai Gielers a 54.738, as Venhofer's lead now is 3.7 seconds. And the battle for second place, it looks like someone's pulled the pin on the grenade and thrown it in the general direction of Helitz and Thien. And that might have been Renhofer when he decided to scarper away like a scalded cat on a hot tin roof and get away from everyone else, and that's what he's done. He's not used any of the 9 lives out there. So Renhofer has a 3.7 second lead, and he's put in another fastest lap of the race, a 53.569 from the young Austrian. Helitz a 54.2, Jaden Thien a 54.1, 54.3 from Van Overloop as Thien gets closer again through the hairpin. Just past the start-finish straight is into the right-hander, then into the next right, and then it's another right after that before a 90 left as Helitz definitely going defensive on Thien. He's trying to anticipate what Thien is doing behind, and with Thien about a couple of kart lengths behind, and we're a little bit of a touch once again, and it nearly put Helitz off the track, and Thien ended up being hindered to the point where it's put him in the clutches of Van Overloop in 4th place. So Kai Helitz now has a little bit of breathing space. Lap number 7 of 10 we go on to, and it is Renhofer still leading from Helitz, Thien, Van Overloop. So Thien, I think, just outbrakes himself a little bit going into that hairpin that saw him touch the back bumper of Kai Helitz, but Helitz got away with it too. And the gap between... Now, this is the battle for second. They're covered by just under 1.3 seconds, this trio. So Helitz has a 6/10 of a second advantage over Thien. Make that 5.5 tenths as Van Overloop now is dropping back behind. And he's about 8 tenths behind Jaden Thien at this particular moment in time. And that was the hairpin where we saw a little bit of contact, a little bit of bumping between Helitz and Thien, the latter being the aggressor, so to speak. But these drivers know each other well, been competed alongside each other in relevant classes. Well, or they've been in the relevant same paddocks thereof. With Thien having moved up to juniors in 2020, Helitz will be staying in juniors for next season, looking possibly to defend his crown at the Rotax Max Euro Trophy. So we're on to lap number 8 out of 10. Renhofer has a lead of 5.4 seconds. Unless someone can do something in the 2 finals, I think Renhofer has pretty much got this evening sewn up and in the bag, so to speak, as Thien closing on Helitz. What these two really need to do... banzaiing up the inside through that hairpin. A little bit of a touch. But I think Thien was alongside enough for it to be considered a little bit of a racing incident there. As Helitz goes banzaiing up the inside, they both go wide. Thien spins out. Van Overloop around the outside of Helitz. I think that will definitely be investigated. So Renhofer now has a lead of 7.9 seconds as he's gone on to the penultimate lap. And he's way, way off into the distance. As they say, if you give someone an inch, they'll take a mile. And that's exactly what Renhofer has done. And I would say probably that's more like kilometres rather than miles. But that's just the sort of like the sarcastic dry wit where we have our usual sayings here in the United Kingdom. But Helitz trying to close on Van Overloop. He's got about a lap and a bit still to go as Renhofer looking to get towards sector number 3. Which he is doing right now. And into the left-right chicane. One more lap after this. We'll see Renhofer have the clean sweep. The first driver to do so this campaign. So he goes on to the 10th and final lap. Van Overloop in 2nd position. Helitz in 3rd place. With Jaden Thien for the 4.3 seconds. Make that 4.4 seconds behind in 4th position. And it just has been absolutely calm and cool. Like a cucumber. The performance, that is, from Raphael Renhofer, who will go into our first of 2 finals this evening on 0 points after intermediate classification. And he's just got a few more corners to do it. And Renhofer has absolutely done the right thing at the right time. He's put it on pole. He's won all 3 qualifying heats now. So he comes out of the final corner to take the checkered flag after 10 laps of racing. As, oh my goodness me, Helitz with a late lunge up the inside of Van Overloop. which turns the latter around as Jaden Dean sweeps around the outside. Oh, they do say revenge is a dish best served cold, and Jaden Dean is just absolutely mugged Relitz, who decides to slot in behind Van Overloop, but obviously who finishing in last. So Renhofer is on 0 points in the classification. Jaden Thien in second place with 7 points to his credit. Van Overloop will be on 11 points, but Kai Rielertz will be on a lot less than that. He will be on, just working this out here, so bear with me a second. He'll be on 9 points, will Rielertz, and then it will be Van Overloop and Boudon. So what drama at the end of that qualifying heat, but Rafael Renhofer does the clean sweep of all 3 races here at Le Mans. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes' time to get the first of 2 finals underway here on the virtual Road to Formula Karting Trophy. Back in a moment. Right, okay. We are back here on the Virtual Road to Formula Karting Trophy, broadcasting live on YouTube and Twitch, brought to you in association with KartSim Limited, IMB Raceware, and the GPVWC. Alex Goldschmidt back once again. Just a little bit of an update. We have basically, it has been decided by race control that Jaden Thien was given a 5-second was given a warning post race number 3. So we will also Kai Helitz's move in race 3 on Jaden Thien. He did give the position back. There've been multiple incidents that we had to consider, and the intermediate classification did say as it was post heat number 3. So we will have 4 drivers, so no points for Ed Boudron. As the lights go green, they push the accelerators hard to the floor and they make their way down towards turn 1 for the first time Vasking. Helitz trying to go up the inside of... that was a bit nasty there. Helitz went absolutely... He went for it up the inside of Jaden Thien after going up the inside of Van Overloop. Thien is absolutely out for the count. So that could be something that is going to be looked at by race control, I fear, post-race. So we'll have to we'll wait for the jury to be put out on that one. But Rafael Renhofer, in the meantime, getting away from the rest of the field. There is Jaden Thien, who's got about 3.8 seconds to find, as we're on the first out of 10 laps in this first of 2 finals, which will give us what our points will be after leaving Le Mans and heading to Adria in just a week's time. First lap completed. We're on to lap number 2. And Renhofer has a lead of 1.197 seconds ahead of Kai Rielertz. And Renhofer has put in a 1 minute 0.527 second lap time. Van Overloop currently running in P3. Okay, so it looks like we are going to have a restart of that race. There was a force feedback issue for Kai Rielertz in the very early stages, and it looks like that they just need to try and reset that. So we are going to go to a full reset. So it will be Renhofer, Thien, Rielertz, and Van Overloop that will be on the grid. No Ed Boudron, so do not start. A real shame for Ed, who's been competing from his home in Mexico. And we are just waiting from Frederick Van Overloop to get onto the grid. Before we go for the second time of asking. So the lights go green. The drivers hit the accelerators hard to the floor. And that's a good start there from Renhofer. Rielertz gets back up the inside like he did on the first start on the inside of Van Overloop. And this time it's a lot cleaner there. Jaden Thien did not have Rielertz barreling his way up the inside as they go into the triple right into the second part of it. Oh, nice move there from Jaden Thien up the inside of Renhofer. And then Rielertz manages to thread the eye of the needle. And then Van Overloop decides to go make it 3rd time's the charm for 3 different drivers. So in the matter of a couple of corners, Renhofer has dropped from the lead down to P4. So this could change again. As they say, karting is very, very unpredictable. That was absolutely brilliant to see from Thien, Rielertz and Van Overloop, as Van Overloop gets a little bit outbreaky going to the first part of the final chicane. Let's go and allow Renhofer to close coming out of the final left-hand sweeper. So Jaden Thien leads the first final ahead of Kai Rielertz. Van Overloop being challenged now by Renhofer. Van Overloop outbreaks himself a little bit going into the hairpin. As there was Renhofer going up the inside, had the inside run. Van Overloop turned back in onto the corner. So Van Overloop again trying to... Oh, no, he's just turned around Renhofer. So Renhofer drops to the back of the field. Jaden Thien, in the meantime, is not going to have an easy fight because right on his back bumper, about 0.6 of a second away, is Kai Rielertz. So it is first and second for Thien and Rielertz at the minute on lap number 2 out of 10 as they go into the final section of the circuit here. Into the left and into the right before the double left going through into the start-finish straight. That is now lap number 3. to now. 54.042 for Jaden Thien. Kai Rillet's 54.4. Van Overloop is now being closed in on by Rafael Renhofer. And this is where things could really dramatically change, because effectively by what happens, if it stays as it is now, Rilletz will effectively go into the lead on 99 points. Renhofer will have 98, so it'll be 1 point between the top two at the top of the standings. And Jaden Thien with a victory of 25 points. That will put him on 82. So he will be within striking distance. And let's not forget that your two worst scores can be dropped. Jaden Thien going quicker than anybody, 53.821 from Jaden Thien, as he now has a gap of about nearly a second on Kai Rilletz. And at the minute, Thien is quickest in Sector 1, Rilletz Sector 2, Van Overloop Sector 3. So the drivers having their little bit of a sweet spot, if you will, on the circuit, as Rafael Renhofer closing on Frederik Van Overloop for third place, as the two leaders making their way towards the start-finish line once again to put us on to the 5th lap out of 10. So Van Overloop showing a good turn of pace, 54.2 from Van Overloop in the number 5. Renhofer in the number 3, currently running about a tenth and a bit quicker, as both Thien and Rilletz are already on lap number 5, and the gap was around about 8/10 of a second between Rilletz in second place as he the last lap around. He put it purple in Sector 2 and has gone purple in Sector 1 of 15.768. That gap looks to be dropping between him and Thien. It was 0.852 seconds at the start of lap number 5, but Rilletz has got that gap down by about a couple of tenths, if at the very, very least. It could be more than likely, probably about 3/10 as Renhofer looking to close going into the hairpin on Van Overloop. He slots in behind, manages to keep things nice and clean, ship-shape and Bristol fashion, as they say, as Rilletz punches in purples in Sector 1 and 2, and he's closing once again on Thien, and he puts in the fastest lap of the race. 5 laps remaining. We're on to lap number 6, a 53.740 from Kai Rilletz. He's got the gap down to about half a second. But Renhofer still trying to seize the opportunity of closing in on Van Overloop for third place. But Rilletz is not letting Jaden Thien breathe. We go on board with Jaden Thien in the number 8. There's Rilletz in the number 1. These drivers are absolutely pushing like crazy. They're reaching speeds in excess of what is nearly 75 miles an hour in UK speed, as Renhofer trying to close in on Van Overloop. Rilletz getting in the slipstream now as they're about to complete lap number 6. Gap between the top two, 0.182. Rilletz was nearly 0.2 of a second quicker than Jaden Thien as they go through the hairpin. Looks like Rilletz has really started to perform when he needs to at the most quintessential moment. It's Renhofer and Van Overloop still battling away. Renhofer still in 4th, Van Overloop in 3rd place at the minute. As the two leaders, you can't really separate them at the moment. They're about 0.3 of a second apart. Jaden Thien now responds to the quickest first sector of anybody in this race, a 15.706 second Sector 1. Over 0.2 quicker than Kai Rilletz, who takes back nearly 1.5 of that through Sector 2. As Thien runs a little bit wide going to the left-hand part of the chicane, round towards the final corner. Rilletz looks to be, he's within lunge range as they come across the line onto lap number 8. Through into the left-hand kink, into the hairpin. Rilletz is just waiting and biding time. Just looking for that opportunity, nice to keep it nice and clean. And he wants to make sure that he does his talking on the track rather than it being taken to the stewards afterwards. And this is where it's all going to change. We're on to the 8th lap out of 10. It's Renhofer closing on Van Overloop. A little bit of a touch between the pair. but Renhofer manages to close back that gap. Oh, that's looking very, very wide there from Overloop. As Renhofer got past, he has made it through going into the hairpin, but he drifts wide. Van Overloop up the inside. And Renhofer now has that opportunity to look up the inside into the next left-hander, which will put them on the chicane. Oh, the pair clash. Oh, they both go grass tracking a bit there as Jaden Thien sets the fastest lap of the race. 53.623. Helix is about 7/10 of a second in drift. As now Van Overloop goes side by side with Renhofer across the start-finish line. Onto the penultimate lap we go. Brilliant stuff from these two. So that was late break as much as you dare. A bit of lock up there from Van Overloop. Smoke bellowing from the rear right tyre. So going in. Oh, Van Overloop overcooks it a little bit, and that has probably allowed Renhofer to get through. They're both off the track. They're both grass cutting. Hang on. Rafael, this is not rallycross. And he gets the penalty as a result of that. That was a humongous track cut. So Renhofer will drop to last in this race as we're going to go on to the final lap. Jaden Thien has been he's taken a leaf out of Rafael Renhofer's book as he now leads Kai Helix by over 8/10 of a second. We go into the final lap of this first final, and it's all gone really, really horribly wrong for Rafael Renhofer in this particular occasion. And, Jaden Thien has done the business as he's needed to. Helix has actually kept pushing him, and that's what you want. You want that competition. So in many respects, Jaden Thien just needed that opportunity to shine. And that is what he is doing right now. They're now heading into the final sector of this race. Jaden Thien has just a couple more corners to go into the right for the final time. Through the left-hand sweeper he comes. Jaden Thien takes another victory this season. He took the final win at Zuera just a week ago, and now he's started a bit of a chain reaction there. Rafael Renhofer will come across the line in third place. Whether the stewards will have anything to think of about that penalty, reference the massive track cut, and Van Overloop crosses the line in fourth place. But Jaden Thien, what a victory ahead of Kai Helix, who now takes the lead in the standings. And I'm just going to give you the points currently at the moment as things stand. Jaden Thien now goes on to 82 points. Kai Helix will go on to 103. Van Overloop, he's on 29 at the minute, so that will put him on 45. And Rafael Renhofer will be on 98 if he is demoted down to fourth place. But we will be back in just a couple of minutes' time with the second final to conclude the halfway point here at Le Mans at the virtual Road to Formula Karting Trophy. Well, for a first final, bringing us towards the halfway point of the inaugural virtual Road to Formula Karting Trophy, brought to you in association with Kart Sim Limited, IMB Raceware, and the GPVWC. This is how it looks at the moment. Now, there was a bit of discussion between the race stewards after this race. Both Rafael Renhofer and Frederick van Overloop were given a 5-second time penalty for I think probably one of the biggest kart track cuts I've ever seen in my life, but thank God it was virtual. But it didn't change the results. So Jaden Thien took the victory. That puts him on 82 points. But here's where it gets really, really interesting. Kai Helets now leads the standings on 103 points. And Rafael Renhofer is 2 points adrift on 101. Jaden Thien now goes up to third in the standings on 82 points. And rounding out the top 4 in the standings is now Frederik van Overloop, because he overtakes not just Ed Boudron, who does not score any points this evening, and also Christian de Klein, who is not with us this evening. So it's getting a little bit tight at the top, as they say, but we still have one more race to go to find out who will be our half-time champion, let's say, the person leading the standings heading into Adria in just a week's time. So the results from final 1 is your grid for final 2. So Jaden Thien lines up on pole position. Alongside will be Kai Rielets. Then it's Rafael Renhofer and Frederik van Overloop rounding out the 4 strong. So we wait with bated breath. And when all 4 red lights get extinguished, we get the green light, we will be racing here one final time at Le Mans. So the lights go green, they push the accelerators hard to the floor, and we are off and away as it is a run down to the first corner. As Helix goes defensive on Renhofer, who has Van Overloop going around the outside through the hairpin. Van Overloop absolutely keeping it pinned. That is the move of the season so far. And he even manages to have a bit of interlocking wheel tussle with Renhofer. But Jaden Thien trying to get away from Kai Helix in the opening salvo here on lap number 1. Nevertheless, Helix is still keeping within close proximity as Van Overloop being hustled now by Renhofer, who's looking up the inside. A little bit of a touch from Renhofer in the number 3 on the number 5 of Van Overloop. So this is where it's going to get rather interesting. But the top 2 covered by just over 0.3 of a second. Jaden Thien leading from Kai Helix. And at the moment, with the way things they are, so if Helix takes second place in this race, it will put him on 123 points. You then look at Renhofer, that will put him on 114 points. Jaden Thien, if he takes another victory, that's going to put him on 107. And that will mean that the top 3 drivers in the standings will be covered by 14 points heading to Adria in just a week's time. It also depends on how close this race is going to be, and it looks to be the closest one yet, because the drivers now are covered by just over a second. It's 1.139 seconds from Jaden Thien to Rafael Renhofer as we're now on lap number 2. Renhofer looking to get up the inside of Van Overloop at the nearest possible opportunity, and he could seize the day this time around because Van Overloop ran wide, but going into the left-hand 90-degree corner before they head onto the final couple of corners before the start-finish straight. Renhofer in the tow of Van Overloop. We now go on to lap number 3. Jaden Thien sets the fastest lap of the race of 54.328 as Van Overloop gets a little bit outbreaky going into the hairpin just off of the main start-finish straights, but manages to pull it back together and get a little bit of breathing space between himself and Rafael Renhofer. As Relitz is trying to close down on Jaden Thien, who's gone purple in sector number 1 of 15.892 from the number 8 driver, currently leading. This could be, if he keeps this pace up, he will be on for a 3rd straight victory in the finals this season so far. But Relitz will do his level best as he's taken 2 victories, so it is 2 apiece between Renhofer, Relitz and Thien coming into the 6th final, if you will, so far. A total of 12 races comprise of the finals, as Kai Relitz now puts in the fastest lap of anybody on lap number 3 out of 10, 54.214 from the youngster based out of Belgium. And the gap between. Look at how close this quartet is, considering what we've had all evening long. They are covered by about a second and a half, and Rafael Renhofer still trying to do what he can to close up on Van Overloop, but you know, he was the one that stood out head and shoulders above the rest in the first parts of this evening. Pole position in qualifying, and all three qualifying heats were in his pocket, and it just sort of started coming undone, unfortunately for Rafael, in the first final, and now he's really on the back foot now as the drivers make their way on to the start-finish straight as we go on board with Rafael Renhofer for the briefest of moments. Jaden Thien goes quickest than anybody, but then it's Frederik Van Overloop who's got the fastest lap of the race. 53.920 for Jaden Thien. Frederik Van Overloop 53.894 down in third place, and he's about 7/10 off of Kai Rielitz, who is still trying to close on Jaden Thien. And Rielitz a little bit quicker in the first sector. That's a personal best for the number one in second position. Renhofer trying to close once again on Van Overloop, and he was just over 10 1,000ths of a second, and he was a 10th and a half up in sector number two. Look at the closing speed from Renhofer. He's really trying to get into the slipstream of Van Overloop to have an opportunity to go up the inside through the final corner. As Jaden Thien puts in another fastest lap of 53.831 and a 53.867 from Kai Rielitz is again through the first hairpin. Renhofer timing that really, really well, but coming out of that corner, he doesn't seem to get the run that Van Overloop does, because Van Overloop goes a little bit wider, carries the momentum through, and gives that... Oh! Dramas once again for Renhofer. He touches the back bumper of Van Overloop, and that is Renhofer's championship lead once again. It's not going to be his night. I thought it was going to be the case that Renhofer was going to steal the march on everybody this evening, but he just not. It's not come at the right time. If he'd have had a bad set of qualifying heats, and then really started motoring forward, a bit like what has happened to Kai Rielitz and also Jaden Thien, they haven't had. It's been a bit up and down. It's a bit like a yo-yo on a string. Neither of them have had the perfect evening in terms of qualifying heats. And then Renhofer comes along and just blows the competition out of the reeds as someone's gone off very, very wide. That is Van Overloop. And that has handed third place to Renhofer. And that will change things quite dramatically. That will give Renhofer another 3 points, putting him just 10. That will put him 6 behind Rielitz at the end of this evening's activities, as we are now on lap number 7 out of 10. As we go on board on the back bumper cam of Jaden Thien, he's had an absolutely perfect evening in terms of the finals. Oh, bit of a tank slapper there for Kai Rielitz, but he manages to catch it going into the left-hander, which brings them into the chicane before the final run to the start-finish line. And now onto lap number 8. The two leaders have gone, and the lead between Thien and Rielitz is around about 7.5 of a second. But look at the lap time from Rafael Renhofer, 53.680 on lap number 7 of this race. And that was a country mile quicker than both Thien and Rielitz. It was nearly 2 tenths quicker than Thien. Rielitz did a 54.2. That was around about 5.5 tenths down. Thien goes purple in sector number 1. Rielitz looks to be trying to close, but he's about a tenth, just under a tenth behind in terms of sector 1, but Renhofer quicker than he has been all race long in sector 1, and he's just gone purple in sector 2, and he's taken 4 tenths out of Kai Rielitz. That gap is coming down, but the laps are running out, and there's a mistake there from Renhofer that has cost him the opportunity of trying to go after Kai Rielitz for second place. We're now on to the penultimate lap of the evening, and Jaden Thien has absolutely done a number on everybody else. It was Renhofer in the qualifying heat stages, thereby winning the intermediate classification. But Jaden Thien has had the measure. He's got that consistency. He's got to know the track, just like Rielitz has, and they've capitalised on it. And Rielitz, I think, is the one that has had the least amount of time on the server and on the circuit. You know, an hour pretty much before we went live here on Road to Formula, Rielitz with the minimal amount of time behind the wheel because he doesn't have his own simulator at home. However, he has come up trumps and is really, really trying to push. As look at the gap now going onto the final lap of the evening here at Le Mans. It's down to just under 7.5 tenths of a second. To make that nearly 9 tenths as now Felix has gone to within 40 thousandths of a second on lap time, and then Renhofer puts in a blinder of a 53.419 on the penultimate lap of this race. But Jaden Thien has just been absolutely cold, calm, and calculating. There's the 3 C's for you this evening, ladies and gentlemen, because it has been absolutely brilliant watching Jaden Thien really come alive. Difficulties at South Garda. He then kicked off his winning streak at Zuera last week, and now we just have a couple more corners remaining. And when I cannot believe with my eyes that Jaden Thien comes out of the final corner, he's done the double here at Le Mans and takes the victory ahead of Kai Rielitz, who now will take a bit of a bigger gap in the standings, 6 points. And effectively, that means that Kai Rielitz is your half-time points leader, your half-time champion here at the virtual Road to Formula Karting Trophy, as Frederik van Overloop comes across the line to take 4th place. Wow, wow, wow. What a job by Jaden Thien, as Kai Rielitz decides to muller the cones and does a bit of a shortcut there. But Jaden Thien really brings himself into the championship fight. So Kai Rielitz on 123 points, Raphael Renhofer on 117, Jaden Thien on 107. That is so close. That is 16 points between the top 3 heading into Adria next week here on the virtual Road to Formula Karting Trophy. Well, we'll be back hopefully in just a couple of moments' time, as we'll try and get some driver interviews before we close off this evening's entertainment for you live on YouTube and also on Twitch. Back in a moment, folks. Right, okay, we're fast approaching the conclusion of our live broadcast here on YouTube and Twitch for the virtual Road to Formula Karting Trophy, third round here at Le Mans. But firstly, we've got an interview this evening, and it is with our new points leader going into the halfway point of it. Euro Trophy champion for 2020 and current B&L Karting Series points leader, Kai Rielets joins me live and direct. Kai, firstly, congratulations on now taking a 6-point lead heading to Adria next week. But it wasn't an easy evening. I know that you had limited practice, didn't you?
Just a second, I'm gonna give him my headset.
Okay.
Was a difficult strategy today. We don't train that much,
Yeah.
so it was really difficult to hold Jaden and Raphael. They were really fast, and yeah, they did a good job.
Yeah, but still to still, that means that Jaden is the only driver so far that has secured 3 wins in the finals. You've got 2, Rafael's got 2, but going into Adria in a week's time, Kai, obviously Adria is a track you and I both know very, very well indeed. Obviously, as you competed at that where you secured the Euro Trophy crown. But now that it's very, very tight between you, Rafael, and Jaden, that's really going to bring the best out of you three in the last 3 rounds, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think there will be a good fight in Adria, and it's one of my favorite tracks. And yeah, I hope we can do our best there and try to win again.
Well, Kai, proficiat is all I'm going to say. And thank you very much for talking to me. And have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week for Adria.
Thank you, you too. See you.
Cheers, Kai. Really, I wanted to speak to one of the guys behind Road to Formula, and I think that would be Matteo Kersmakers that joins me. Matteo, we have to really talk about Jaden because his performance tonight was absolutely outstanding, wasn't it?
Yeah, indeed. How he was driving tonight was really nice to see because the first week he had some issues with the connection first, and then generally with not feeling the car at 100%. I think in the simulator, and you really saw how he improved over the last weeks. So that's very nice to see.
I think also with the fact that we know that the the sim racing world does have a lot of correlation in terms of the skills that you can take from multiple different platforms, like the one we're using at the moment, R Factor 2 with the Kart Sim package. It can really help them to learn these circuits and put in the laps before, like, say, heading out there for real and knowing the track inside out. That can give them a bit of an advantage in terms of a mental aspect as well as getting the muscle memory too.
Yeah, that's 100% sure. The simulators these days are getting much more realistic, and the card sim software on R Factor 2 is actually one of the most realistic mod I've ever driven with. Also, other karters are saying the same thing, that they really feel like it's the real thing. So it's a very good tool because you can get all the data out of the game. You can analyze the data with a better lab, and that way you can really improve very easily and very fast, and also without too many costs for going on track. So yeah, I think it's a tool that's going to be used a lot more in the future, and that's what we at Road Formula, of course, try to help the young guys with.
Yep. So if you want to get some training with Road to Formula, you can head to the official website, road2formula.com. So that is it from us here at the virtual Road to Formula Karting Trophy from the virtual recreation of Le Mans International in Pays de la Loire. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week when we head to the virtual recreation of Adria Karting Raceway. for the second and exciting beginning of the second part of this season. Thank you for watching, and above all, stay safe, good night, and we'll see you next week. Take care.